Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We got to rattle over some themes here in our last segment. Let's just wrap up on June dollar. Go to the Russia Today website and see what I have to say about it. 5 minutes worth, all in a nutshell. Anyway, not just the London Daily Telegraph, but also Brian Ross of ABC Television News revealed that the CIA pays for June dollar, and Seymour Hersh, writing in the New Yorker, quotes Robert Baer, ex-CIA, saying that money comes from the U.S. CIA budget. Let's also remember the Iranians are accusing the U.S., Britain, Israel, and Pakistan. Pakistan is where this stuff is based. I wouldn't blame Pakistan for acceding to tremendous pressure from the imperialists to have that operate there. The problem is that Baluchistan is going to carve Pakistan as well. That's the location of the port of Gwadar, tremendously strategic. That's where the Chinese need to build a pipeline up through the Pakistani energy corridor over the Himalayas and into China. That would save 10,000 miles of Anglo-American infested waters for the Chinese oil tankers, and if you could build an Iran through Pakistan into China pipeline, so much the better. So no doubt about that. These are acts of war. It's time to stop this. Does Obama get the Nobel Peace Prize for that one, too? Why doesn't Obama come out and condemn the June dollar attack as acts of war and terrorism? Haven't heard anything from Barkey on that. He's contemplating himself in the mirror, I guess, in his Nobel Peace Prize, the narcissist. What we're going to need, of course, I'm wondering at the Democratic National Convention in 2012, will we have the equivalent of Khrushchev's secret report to the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1956? You'll remember back then Khrushchev revealed in a secret report that was then obtained by Allen Dulles and the CIA the crimes of Stalin, the cult of personality of Stalin. Who's going to give the report on the cult of personality of the narcissist Obama at the Democratic Convention in 2012? Right now we need, if you will, we've got all these czars. We've got 35 czars, more czars than the House of Romanov. Why don't we have an October revolution against Obama's czars? The peace movement has done some things on the 5th and 6th of October, the October 17th. They've sort of twitched a little bit. It's not enough. And some of these people now say, okay, now we go into winter quarters. No more demonstrations until March. Baloney. You've got all of November, all of December. It's very warm in Washington right now. Let's have some demonstrations, please, from the left liberals. If you're not foundation funded, time to come out and do something in that regard. Obama today is speaking at MIT. He's touting cap and trade, this monstrous trillion-dollar tax on U.S. agricultural and industrial production that will cause hundreds of millions of deaths in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. We're hoping that China and India will hang tough. Keep your united front. Do not allow the imperialists to dictate binding carbon targets that will strangle your development. Copenhagen must fail, and that cap-and-trade monstrosity is coming up in the Senate next week. So let's try to have a two-pronged attack against Obama's genocidal health plan, the looting of Medicare to the tune of $500 billion, and the looting of the U.S. economy to the tune of $1 trillion under the auspices of cap-and-trade, cap-and-tax, Prince Philip's delight, Al Gore's revenge, what have you. Now let's look at program. Science of economic program. This is absolutely crucial. We'll be talking about this in the remaining time today and continuously now over the next couple of weeks. If you go back to Germany in the Depression, 1930, 31, 32, you will see that as German unemployment climbed towards 30% officially and probably 37 to 40% in reality, there were people who came up with economic plans to fight the Depression, fight unemployment, defend democratic institutions, and prevent the collapse of society that was then presided over by Hitler and the National Socialists. We've talked about some of these in the past. You have Lautenbach from the Economics Ministry, who recommends a job creation program. You've got a guy called Wagemann, who talks about a job creation program. And you've got the very interesting economist W.S. Voitinsky, who came over in the U.S. and had quite a career to the end of the 1950s. And he was talking about the same thing. This is the famous Voitinsky-Tarnow-Bada program espoused by the German trade unions, right? The DGB, Allgemeine Deutsche Gewerkschaftsbund. The basic convergence of these points is 2 billion Reichsmarks of the time to build roads and railroads. Good example, the Autobahn. The German Autobahn, the first really ambitious program of building. This could have been done in 1930, 1931 under democratically elected auspices, and it could have stopped Hitler, because it would have meant that the 1 to 2 million unemployed who would have been pulled into productive jobs in the Autobahn would no longer have been available for recruitment to the Nazi SA, the stormtroopers, the brown shirts. And that was the argument, except that Brüning, Chancellor Heinrich Brüning, wanted more deflation, and he was interested in cutting the unemployment benefits. He wanted to destroy the social safety net because he thought that this was unsustainable, and the bosses and the bankers didn't want to pay it. So he essentially kept going on this lunatic course of deflation until democratic institutions had been destroyed. So what we can learn from the tragedy of the German people, which then became a tragedy for all of Europe and indeed the world with hundreds of millions of deaths, is that it's time to come in there in a timely way with an economic recovery program. Now, I put forward the elements of this in the past, but now I've got it boiled down to 2 pages, and this is going to be issued now in the course of the next week. I'll just give you the headline right now. 30 million productive jobs. That's what we need. We need 30 million new productive jobs, well-paid, union pay scales, not low-wage, dead-end, minimum wage plus X jobs, but 30 million new, productive, well-paid jobs to rebuild U.S. infrastructure, industry, and agriculture. This is the program to end the world economic depression. You can look for this at tarpley.net probably towards the end of this week. Again, 7 to 10 days, that upgrade will be ongoing. You'll find it at actindependent.org also quite soon. We have a deepening world economic depression. Again, 550,000 people lost their jobs the week before last. This depression will not end through some kind of a magical cycle. There is no such thing. You got to do 5 things. We'll do the details over the coming weeks. First, measures to cut speculation and minimize the burden of fictitious capital. Claw back the TARP, but above all, shut down the zombie banks, tax derivatives, Tobin tax, 1%, outlaw credit default swaps, outlaw adjustable rate mortgages, stop foreclosures, put a 10% upper limit on credit cards, re-regulate commodities and other markets. Secondly, nationalize the Federal Reserve, 0% credit for production, 0% federal lending, not federal spending. Stop borrowing from zombie banks. Stop borrowing from foreigners. Be your own bank. You lend. U.S. government lends, doesn't borrow. We had enough of borrowing. The U.S. government, properly managed, is the most powerful institution in the world still today. Why should you be keeping zombie bankers alive with life support and then borrowing money from them at exorbitant rates? Why borrow from foreigners when you can generate your own sovereign credit, 0% federal credit? So start putting out tranches of $1 trillion, and you will go towards creating 30 million new productive jobs. Keep issuing those tranches until you get to full employment. If you get to full employment, it will be the first time since 1945 that anybody has seen it. So it means for production only, not financial services, not banking, not stock jobbing, but industry, agriculture, construction, mining, retail sales, energy production, transportation, infrastructure, scientific research, plus rail, transit, and so forth. Anything productive, you go to the head of the line. Bankers are invited to take their chances in that free market they love so much. Anyway, we've got 5 points here. 30 million jobs in 5 years. Rebuild the economy, improve wages, standards of living, productive investment, full employment, and higher capital investment per job. We'll be given more details. See you next week on World Crisis Radio.